Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Count Your Words on Rocklaz Radio. This is Tanmay Shah.
Hi, this is Laura Ginberga.
This is our sixth episode, and today we have decided to talk about a particular genre of books, which is books on habits. Let us begin.
Let us begin. Boom, 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 boom. For this episode, we decided we will talk about books about habits, because habit is something invisible. It's something starts from within, from the energy, from your childhood most of the time, unless it's worked on. And then it grows and your habit makes your life, right? And so we will talk about books that in our own experience have helped us to improve our lives and maybe understand something more, the wisdom, and share also with our own experiences as examples. So I would start with my favorite book so far is Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. And there's a funny story behind that, because I had this book. I love books in general. I tend to buy, when I get into library, I don't do it anymore. I get into library and I go out with like 5-6 books out. So at the end, it's a lot of space taken in it. Also, when I travel, I can't bring all of them. So I started reading on my phone, and then I started listening actually to audiobooks. So it's one device only, and it's very comfortable to bring it around whenever you travel. However, I had this book on my shelf waiting for it to be read, and in the meantime my sister came and said, "Oh my God, you have this book, let me borrow it." She borrowed and she read. She came back and she said, "Laura, you know what? You have to do this, and I can tell you where you're leaning or what is your smell, because we never feel our own smell. We never know when we lean until somebody else is actually coming to us, a very good friend most of the time, or a mentor, and says, listen, this and this is going on because you don't see it. You have to know this." And she said, "Laura, most of the time I noticed you are reactive." And I said, "What do you mean?" "Well, you could be proactive instead of reacting to certain situations." And I am myself, I'm a very fiery person. I'm just fire, like I will burn everything around me. But then there is this moment between reaction and then, hey, is it doing good to me? Is it doing good to environment? What is this the outcome? What's going to happen, And then, okay, what would mean proactive? Oh, proactive means that I actually make that way in the direction that I actually want, instead of reacting. So that was a true example out of my own life, and since then I fell in love with the book. And obviously there's so many other useful habits I could continue talk about, but I will let you speak first.
Yeah, no, that's an amazing book, Laura. I think one of my main clients that I work with in the industry, and they're a very senior executive. They've actually run sessions where we've watched Stephen Covey's videos, obviously taken from the same Habits book that he'd written, and run that for like 100 people audience in the team, and it has had a real impact. So definitely one of the most important books ever written in the space of change management and personal change management. So absolutely agree with the fact that it's an amazing book. I think in the last almost couple of years, I think we've all been through a pandemic, and it's been a bit hard. So one book I came across, and again, similar to you, I tend to go into shops and just buy books, keep them on the shelf for very long periods of time, and then pick them up when the mood is right. And I had a similar book called The How of Happiness. It seemed an interesting book. It was about explaining how happiness works and then how you can actually create habits and activities that will cultivate happiness. And what struck me the most, and it was in the first few pages of the book itself, was that what determines happiness is 50% of it is genetic. So there is some truth to that you're either a happy person or not. But then 50% isn't. And almost 40% is intentional activity, and 10% is circumstances, both of which you have control over. And I kind of started this book in the last, in 2020, when obviously we were going through a little bit of a lull in all of our lives. And this book really helped me understand what my own set point was. What are the activities that I could take up to be able to feel uh, happier in my life? And I think some of the activities are fairly simple, like expressing gratitude, cultivating optimism, uh, in some cases, even bringing in religion and spirituality into your life, and so on and so forth. So I think there's a bunch of activities that they've listed out, and this is purely based on research by an author called Sonia. I can't really get the second name right, so please forgive me if that's incorrect, but I think it's Lyubomirsky. And again, this book definitely had a very big impact on me personally, because it helped me to tide over some rough periods in 2020, and then as we came into 2021, just to keep the momentum going, continue to feel happy on the inside. Again, I would strongly recommend that book to anyone who's obviously a little bit. It's a bit more dry than your average book because it is written by a researcher, but it really, if you're a numbers person, if you're a person who likes facts, and then take insights from facts and take it into your life.
Thank you. To the listeners home, we are doing today's episode on Twitter. So I would request all of the people on stage to introduce yourself in 2 lines and then start speaking. The previous speaker whom you just heard is Nikhil Gupta. He's a management consultant and IIT Delhi alumni. So it's glad to see you here and have more people join in the conversation. Welcome you all once again. Today's episode is Count Your Words Habits Edition. So, all books on habits we are discussing today and adding a personal experience with the concepts which you have taken away with it. So, I would anybody want to jump in, or should I go with my? Okay, so the book which I have read or which I want to talk about today is called Atomic Habits. It's by James Clear. And for listeners, we'll attach all the books and titles in the description of the podcast, so you can directly have the link to the books. Atomic Habits. So, why Atomic Habits? The name of the books comes from atom being the smallest particles but causing the biggest impact. So when small atoms atoms come together, they can be used for nuclear energy. I won't name the bombs, but you can have amazing energy with atoms. So atomic habits is having habits at an atomic level. So when the concept which I like was goals versus system. So we say we want to have a goal, and I want to I want to run a marathon, but you forget about running after the marathon. You just forget about it. But when you have systems built around it, suppose you say yourself that I want to be a runner, and you call yourself as runner, so you will keep doing it every day, and even after the marathon gets over, and you'll be fit like that. So, so creating systems and continuity daily, doing that thing daily is more important than setting goals. So he explains with different examples. And the second rule along with this comes is a 2 minute rule. The 2 minute rule. The 2 minute rule explains that when when you want to have a new habit, you break it down to the smallest point that you can do that every day. If you want to, so marathon practice can become just 2 minutes stretching and warm up. If you want to do yoga, you can, or push ups, you can just do one push ups. Or if you are working on a book, writing a book, so maybe just write one line every day. So with that system, with that in continuity in place, you have exponential growth. So it's like a L-shaped curve. It's not a linear line. So it has exponential returns, and it compiles on and on with 1% growth every day. So in my life personally, I have been doing yoga. So I've restarted it, and I'm doing at least minimum of whatever I can daily. And the second point which he makes is habit stacking. So habit stacking is the things which you do by default, like brushing your teeth or having bath or eating. So the things you do by default, club your habit or stack the new habit on it. So I used this last year, or for I have been using this for 2 years. So after my bath every morning, I said I need to do yoga and meditation. So I was able to do that every day, and it became a default habit for 2 years. Um, so that's a great that was a great point which I found out.
I
So,
wanted, sorry,
yeah, go ahead, please.
I wanted to bring up a very little example that maybe all of us have experienced that, and it's sugar. Do you add sugar to your tea or coffee? You know, when I was a child, I remember I was adding sugar to my tea until I don't remember my mom, she's super healthy, or my grandma, she said, you know what, actually sugar is not good. So think about it if you actually wanted to add it to your daily drink. And then I started thinking, and well, how do I do this? I can't just cut it off, But then I changed the teas. I because I changed the tea, the flavor, and I didn't add the sugar. It helped me, and after all, I actually learned how to drink the tea without sugar. I haven't been drinking it like for 20 years now. So these very small things, the habits, you think maybe that little small thing will not do anything, but it actually does. And how do you eat elephant? You eat it piece by piece, right?
Absolutely. So that's an amazing example of how to get rid of habits. So you can have a system for or be in a bad habit which you want to break, or a new habit which you want to inculcate. So for or talking on those lines, if you want to break an habit, you need to make it really difficult, really unattractive, and increase the friction in doing that. So, for example, I was spending a lot of time on my mobile phone, and these algorithms were sucking a lot of my time, the Instagram and all that. So then, what I had tips I got and I used that was the screen on my phone is black and white, so it makes it less interesting and less attractive. Second thing is using what do you say? Focus. It's a app by Google. So you can set up what apps do you need to use in this time. If you can set a timing of how much you want to use this app throughout the day. Or if you set a work mode, you cannot access any other app. You click how many ever times it won't open. So yeah, increasing the frictions, creating as many obstacles as you can for that. Uh, yes, that was a good point.
I know.
How do you? Hey, Laura, what's going
Hey,
on?
how are you? I
This is
didn't know it
Phil.
was you.
This is my secret identity, guys.
Fantastic.
Hey, Tanmay, what's going on?
Hi, how are you?
Good to see you all. I see incredible people. There's CMAB. I see Prijri. I see Nikhil, and John. Good to see you all. Good morning from here in Los Angeles, or good evening where you guys are. But hey, man, this is good. Good talk about habits, man. And my question to you is, how do you make your phone black and white? That's very interesting.
So, I don't know what it is for iOS, but some Android phones, when you scroll it down, they have the sleep mode. So if you just click the sleep mode, the whole screen goes black and white, and you stop getting the notifications and all that. So I think you will find a different way to do it for iOS.
I know I have sleep mode, but it never goes black and white. It's some kind of Soviet Union stuff here.
No, I think the black and white mode is an Android thing. It's been there for many years, and I definitely recommend using it, especially as it says on the tin, the sleep mode. It's really helpful because it also is easier on your eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and for iOS, I know that they have dark mode along with the do not disturb mode, which is like the moon emblem for any iOS users. And while I'm going, do you guys mind if I share a couple books that I think are relative to the space?
Please go ahead.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so you guys have brought up some really great books. I've been looking them up while you guys were speaking. I appreciate you guys so much for sharing. I just wanted to share some books, two in particular, that were pretty relative to what you guys are focused on in the space. The first was really one of the first business books. Both of these are business books, but as you can imagine, they speak to habits often within these kind of books. The first book I've ever read regarding business is called The Lean Startup by Eric Ries. It's one of they refer to it as one of the testaments in one of the testamental books for founders in business. And the second is 0 to 1 by Peter Thiel. Both authors are pretty relative. But what they speak to in those books, specifically regarding habits, one thing I wanted to bring up was a specific habit that they focus on in both books, which is the habit of being a minimalist, and the idea of, like, I guess it's I would phrase it as preventing yourself from making the wrong assumptions, right, or unnecessary assumptions, right. And in their case, they're speaking to users, but just like you guys are applying it to life, I think this applies to our lives in full, which is, we go through life and we live majority of our life in our own heads, right. And I would say that regarding the ways in which we can practice great habits, especially for mental health, is, uh, live life being a minimalist. And that doesn't have to be a physical practice, right? That can be a mental one, right? And being able to take things step by step, and being able to speak this into existence as a current founder, it's almost like, hey, every day, we're laying one brick at a time, right? And from every brick, we're going to grow from there. Right. And there's no need to assume what brick 100 would look like when we're only at brick 5. Right. And at this point in time, the focus should be on how do we get to brick 6. Right. And so just regarding, mental habits, right, and growth, I think both of these books have unique ways of expressing that. Peter Thiel, in particular, in his book 0 to 1, he speaks to his experiences as, one, a founder, and then, two, eventually an investor. So he has a really cool perspective on, some of his hardships and successes as a founder, as somebody who was on the ground grinding. And then he has a bunch of experiences regarding someone who was evaluating, new groups coming into the space and hoping to make impact. And he provides a lot of great insight regarding, what he observed, habits that he's grown for himself, and some that he's had to break. And so regarding what you guys have shared, really appreciate you guys' time. And then, yeah, just to drive home what I was hoping to contribute to the space, just, there are also mental habits, right, regarding how you can practice your life, both in business and in real life, in reality. And living as a minimalist may be one that some people here in the space or on the podcast may be able to benefit from. So thanks again, guys.
Thank you,
Well,
Poetry.
that
Also,
was.
there.
Oh, go ahead, Laura. Go ahead.
I'll just say there is one other book, Poetry, you could be interested in. It's give me 1 second. It's Greg McKeown, Essentialism. And as from the name itself, it's like from the mess around, you concentrate and focus on the most important thing, and all the rest, all the noise, you just cut it out. I mean, it's amazing book. And there is actually, I made one painting inspired from after reading this book, and it's called Essentialism, and it's minimalist, monochrome color. Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I'll definitely follow up and look into that.
Yeah, it's fun. You said 0 to 1. I'm actually reading that one right now. I just almost done last pages, but amazing book, amazing book. I'm so glad you brought it up because it's so fresh in my head and perfect example. Just wanted to share that. That's incredible, man.
My favorite book so far, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and highlight other section he was talking about, which is time management matrix, which is important, non-important, urgent, and non-urgent. So very often we get caught into urgent things. Okay, you got to do this because it's the last moment. Oh my God, something comes up. Somebody calls. This is urgent. And what happens is that the priorities probably get on the second space because there are urgencies to deal with. And what he recommends, Stephen Covey, is to actually continue with the things with when you plan your time ahead, let's say for a year, 5 years, etc., and go on with these things. Obviously, if there is an urgency, you deal with it. But if you are in a quadrant where you live only for to resolving the urgencies, then you keep repeating the same cycle, and you don't get to plan for the future. You just stay in the present. So I wanted to highlight that thing.
Yeah,
absolutely. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, this is staying in the present, right?
It's staying in the present, but staying in the present in the way that staying in present and dealing with urgencies instead of staying in present and planning for the future and building the future. So there are like details that determine how
Sure, Laura. I think I'll probably finish the sentence you were saying, and I've read that piece around urgent and important, and the idea is that what we typically end up doing as people who are short sighted in their attention span, and that's just the human condition, is that we tend to go for the urgent first, even if it may not be important. And that's the idea, that you actually put everything on a grid. Let's say your morning to do list of things, and essentially put them on the urgent and important scale. And chances are that there'll be a bunch of activity which are less important but probably urgent, or less urgent and less important but easy, so on and so forth. And depending on your energy, and this is, I'm bringing another concept in which is not part of the book, but it does kind of sit well with it, because it's kind of driven by research, is that depending on how you consume your energy during the day, or how your kind of mind and body work, you should then align tasks associated with that urgent and important grid on that time of the day. So, for example, if you're most productive and creative during your morning hours, and that's what your style of working is, then you should probably prioritize the most important and most urgent tasks. So the top right quadrant, if you think of it as a grid, in the morning. While if your uh, lull periods are usually, let's say, around lunchtime. At that point, you might want to get some of the stuff which is urgent but not as important because you're probably not focused enough. So that's the idea, that you can coordinate the entire day's activity based on that grid of urgent and important, and you get the most important stuff out accordingly, and in a more productive way. Essentially, you don't end up just doing the urgent stuff while missing out the important stuff.
I mean, can you just do this in my place, because you just explained it perfectly? Thank you.
No, it's fine. I think, Laura, this is one of those things that has traveled from the book that he's written into everyday management, and it's almost it feels incredible that this was part of a book which has now become almost management theory 101, where everyone needs to know about it. Otherwise, you're not doing your job well. Absolutely amazing book, for sure. In fact, one other Stephen Covey habit is around the big rocks, and we actually in our consulting practice, as well as with working with clients, we do that a lot. The idea is that if you, I'm sure a lot of people would have seen this video online on YouTube. It's a very good one if you haven't seen it. Is if you actually take a jar of empty jar and you add sand to it, and then you start adding bigger pebbles to it, you'd very quickly run out of space. But if you do the reverse activity, which is you put the big rocks in and then you put the sand in, you'd actually be able to pack a lot more material in it. And the idea being that you should focus on the big rocks, get them in place, and then you will have enough space and time and focus to do the little stuff. But if you don't do the big rocks first, then you would never be able to get all of it done, because you'll just constantly be busy and do the small activity all throughout your day. And that's how you sort of don't end up making much progress in the main strategic direction that you want to take yourself to. And we do this exercise in a quarterly way, even at work, where we set our big rocks for the quarter, saying these are the 5 priorities. Everything that we do then should be in the service of these 5 priorities, and so on and so forth. And then obviously all of the sand or the little pebbles come in, and that includes that's work. But if you think of it as an individual, you could do the same, saying, okay, these are my 5 big rocks at this point in time. It could be learning how to drive. It could be learning a new skill. It could be personal life, spending time with kids, etc. So say these are my 5 most important things. And then on top of it, I will then make sure everything else happens. And you ensure that by doing that, you're essentially giving yourself the most chance of succeeding in all of those aspects. Otherwise, you just end up doing stuff that is in front of you rather than what's important to you. But again, great book, Laura. I think I completely agree with you. And I think we have Tanmay back again.
Nikhil, when you spoke, you reminded me of a book by, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, where you really need to focus on the present, your thoughts, it's almost like self-awareness. Which is pretty much self-mastery. If you've accomplished self-mastery, I think a lot of these things are taken care of. You'll be able to identify, pain and parts of your body, stress, and know how to deal with that before you react. You'll be able to feel your inner body, your sense, how things connect, and you'll be able to accept what is. When you see a problem right there, you logically think about it and you associate that thought with how you feel, because you're aware of your feeling, then you'll be able to make a really, really good decision for yourself, and actually even prepare yourself for the future in a really good way, because you're all present, you're all in tune with yourself. It's all kind of aligned, and it's just a muscle. You just need to exercise, and then some of the frustrations will be taken care of, because you wouldn't worry so much, because even if you look at a situation where you've lost, you just know that that's okay. I think I have a game plan. I know exactly what I'm preparing for. I know what I'm doing, and I have a roadmap, and that's the direction I'm going to go. I'm not going to get distracted with a loss. I think the loss is an opportunity to learn and pick up the pieces and move on. So, back at you, Nikhil.
There are stages in the atomic habit, which he says. So first we hit the perceived limit. We think this is the limit. We cannot go ahead of that. Then if we cross that, there is rapid progress. Then there is sudden breakthrough if you continue that. But on the way, there could be prolonged frustration, and but all that results in success. So just having the same habit and going on and on doing that same thing is the crux. And just another example adding on to it was there was a big fighter from Mesopotamia. He was very strong. He used to defeat everybody, and nobody could fight with him. He used to throw bulls and all that. So his story goes back like there was a small calf of a bull. So when you're small, when he was young, he used to pick that calf up and take it to his home from the park. So he used to do that every day, and the bull started growing up. In 4 years, the calf became bull, and the person didn't even realize, because the bull was growing in such a small way every day. But his strength also grew every day with that, and then in 4 years he became so strong that he could lift bull every day. So that was my sense.
That's awesome, man. I want to lift a bull.
Laura, you are going to tell us about a new book, The Success of Millionaires or something like that. Yes.
Oh, yeah. So I just started reading a new book by T. Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind. And what he emphasizes is the blueprint that is in us. And as always, the things come from our childhood. So the blueprint of being successful, the blueprint of actually not being successful, the blueprint of spending, or of making and spending, or of making money, and then he obviously brings up all the examples from his own life and his mentees, and I think I just started reading this book, and I find it very helpful to myself, because in a way it helps myself to get out of my position, what I see daily. And Harv Eker, Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
You have to go. You have to go, because your subconscious believes anything you say. It says, if I'm not beautiful, I'm not handsome, your subconscious, whatever you truly desires is what your subconscious pretty much does. That's where we need to tap into the subconscious part of the brain. But it gives a story why we're not millionaires is because of our beliefs. For his wife, hey, why do you cut the hams both sides? Why do you do that? Instead of just having the entire full ham on the plate. Then the wife said, well, I do that because my mom taught me. And then the good enough, the mom was there, because it was like Thanksgiving, and asked the mom, hey mom, why do you do, hey grandma, why do you do that? Why do you cut the edges of the ham and just not, instead of just serving it? And she said, well, I learned it from my mother. And she asked the mother, so, and then the great grandmother who actually was there said, they were asked the same question, and she said, well, I did that because the pan was small, so I just wanted to have the ham fit in the pan. So these habits we pick up from our parents, maybe these beliefs, that having money might be evil, all those things will stop you from being successful. Even though you really want to, you just have to address those beliefs first. And that's what you have to tell yourself that you are. You already are a millionaire. All of us, you already are. You already are successful. Now the subconscious already heard that and it believes now. Now what will happen is you will just have this natural energy that will push you to become successful. So back at you, Laura.
Yeah, I think obviously if you say it, it's not like you become it. Then it a little bit reminds me of The Secret, when everybody was just dreaming about Lamborghinis and castles, and then nothing happened. But what I am grasping, and I remember this moment when you said about the turkey and the small pan from grandmother. I think it's exactly that. It's a building new world, and building new world means doing something that you have never done and seeing something that you have never seen. And maybe it's just turning that focus of yours. So let's say I'm focused on Northeast, and I'm focused on the what's the name of the gas station, petrol station, and then everything looks gray, and I mean it's so rainy and it's cold and it's unsuccessful and it's actually a loser and whatever, but at the same standing at the same point and turning maybe 3 degrees on your right or left, or turning whatever degrees and putting that focus on, okay, but hey, there is actually a storage where I can actually start. Let's say there is a lot, I can start this, I can do that, I can do that. Okay, but my parents believe that the money is evil and it brings something bad, so I cannot make money. Aha! So there is a wrong belief. I don't want to say wrong. There is a blueprint of me thinking, it's actually not good. So let's focus on changing this belief as well. So obviously saying this to yourself until you believe it, it's a good thing. Me as a very rational person, I would be like, yeah, it's not going to change my life. So what's going to change my life? Looking back and actually seeing the world that it used to be. So believing that, oh, it's gray and it's dark and I'm a loser and whatever. That's just an example. And then switching it, oh, I'm actually not a loser because this belonged to my parents. This belonged to my grandparents. It doesn't belong to me. I'm somebody else. And I believe I'm a winner. And just changing these worlds from one to the other, because so often I also see situations around the people that I know personally that they live and relive their parents and their grandparents' stories. It's just like a generational repetition until it's broken. So how do you break it? You have to look back at the same patterns that are repeating and maybe break it then, but you have to realize where's the pattern. And maybe this is that habit.
Up next, you'll be listening to the voices of Phil and Shenaz. They are discussing books and personal incidents and takeaways from their lives.
And my name was always at the bottom. It was crazy. It was so embarrassing. I couldn't even date the girl that I liked in school because she was like, you're good, but dude, man, you're like right over there. So, man, that was crazy. I think it's when I graduated high school, something really snapped. And And, I remember I was in school, and I knew, like, I was rejected to all the universities. Like, this sucks everywhere. They just said, man, your bad grades, man. Come on. You don't have good grades. What are you doing here? This is for, like, people with A's and whatever. So I was like, it's so discouraging. So I got into a technical institute, one of those schools that, get you going. So my dad gave me advice, said, Phil, this is what's going on. Your life, this is how you're going to live. You're going to go the long way. The guys who got the good grades, they go the short way. But your route in this life is going to be the long way. But you'll get to the same destination as the other people. It's just long. So that's when, of course, my mom, helped me with the visa and all that stuff, coming to the U.S. And while I was doing this technical school, I noticed my grades were just sharp. I was just getting A's 24/7 because I just decided that I needed to get serious about it. It's the thing with even young kids you see who are not performing. Sometimes it's just a learning method. We can't really. This is where I'm really against, standardized education, because everybody's so different. Every kid is so different. I was completely different. Everything I was being taught, the techniques, it was so different. It was just not my style. But when I got into the plane and I was flying to the U.S., I let go of everything. I just sat inside of that plane and I said, I'm gonna embrace change from this day, and I'm going to accept everything that's new, and that's gonna be part of my destiny. Change was something that I made a part of my life that I had to do, regardless of anything. So anything I saw from that point, I took it as a new way of looking at things. And of course, during COVID, and long story short, during COVID started maybe before COVID, when Trump was in office, and before that a little bit, I made a commitment of reading a book a week, and everything changed. If you do that, everything will change. Your business is going to change. My business just went up like crazy. My clients, the relationship got better because now you have understanding. You have now patience. You have empathy. When you have a problem, it's not about okay, we have a problem, let's fix it. It's about, okay, how do we go much farther with this problem and really figure out how to really help this person, like on a much fundamental level, like in a way that this is never going to happen. Like, let's fix it on a deeper level to fix the problem. And sometimes when you're talking to people, it helps you identify, when you have the conversation, you can see that it's not necessarily about what's on the surface. You can really go beyond and say, what's really going on? And that's when people really connect. But the change is how it all started when I came to the U.S. and I just made up my mind. I just decided to let go. In fact, let go even my beliefs, my cultural beliefs, my religious beliefs. I completely was like a newborn person. I let go of everything, and I told myself, well, what if everything you've been taught is a lie? Everything. And when you think like that and then you start reconstructing your truth based on your experience, then you have a much greater opportunity to appreciate life in a much deeper way. So, yeah, so that's a little bit about it. I've jumped back and forth. Just wanted to share that. Did I answer a little bit of your question, Laura?
This was incredible. Thank you. And this is exactly what I wanted from this space, bring out our personal experiences and examples, how they have influenced and how, like, this ever changing life is going on, and like every story is unique and so interesting. And thank you for sharing your story with us.
Hey, thank you for having me, guys. I was this, I was actually asleep and someone invited me to this room. I said, okay. I saw library talking books about habits. For the last 2 years, I've been reading over 100 books a year. And actually, if you go back 5 years, I was reading 0 books a year. And this is about, I saw talking books and habits. I started off with 0, and I read an article about how to increase your reading and how to read, let's say, 400 books a year. And I thought that was the most insane thing ever. And then someone said, no, it's mathematical. And the math is, it's like word count. How many books, how many words in a book, how fast do you read, all of that. Well, long story short, I started reading. I went from 12 to 43 to 80 something, and now I'm consistently reading 100 books a year. How has this changed me? It's changed my life. I have a podcast about reading, and I'm actually working on my first novel. It changes me in that I'm able to focus. Like, it's insane. I am very squirrel-brained. I can't think straight. Like, half the time it's like, oh, I'm talking about topic 1, and then topic 2, topic 3, topic 4. It's like, where are you, Shenaz? But now I could probably stay on topic 1 for a little bit longer than I used to be able to. So it's really influenced me. It's changed me. I'm hugely bookish now. I love reading. I read motivational books. I read self-help. I read historic fiction. I read fantasy. I mean, you name it. I don't read horror, but that's my life, and that's it. I just wanted to say hello. I just saw the space, and thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Shenaz. Thank you. I'm curious about, you said you were all over the place. Would you say it's ADHD, ADD, or not really? And if it is, then what helped you with your concentration?
So I don't know if it's ADD. I've never been diagnosed. It could be. But what helped me with my concentration is when I started reading books, when you first read, you're like all over the place. I think it's your brain power increases. Your ability to concentrate when you're sitting with a book actually increases. Also, I read a book, I think a couple of books. I can't tell you exactly which ones. One is actually the bullet journal method. There's a book about it. Believe it or not, the book is really good. And one of the things the book says is, in our lives, we want to achieve so much. If I ask the average person, what do you want to be in your life? They'll be like, I want to be the world's famous artist. I want to be a builder. I want to be a writer. I want to be a pianist. I want to be this and I want to be that. And there's so many things we want to be in our lives. And the book says, it doesn't matter. Just boil it down to 3 things. So I'm very conscientious about focusing on 3 things in my life at any given time. Like right now, my focus is on my podcast, my writing, and my reading. So those are like 3 very serious focuses. Anything else, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm just not, because there's only so much time and our brains need that focus. So it's that help from the books that this is the way you need to do it that's helped me. And I have not been diagnosed, like I said, but with a little bit of help, I thought, that makes sense. So that's where I am.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your experience, your books, and just being here.
If you find value in our podcast and like the work we are doing, please consider buying our NFTs. You'll not only have an amazing artwork, but also you'll support us in many, many ways. For the next episode, we are going to have Dr. Aniruddha Malpani with us. He's a world-renowned IVF specialist, angel investor, and a very dynamic person. Fun fact, he had 180,000 followers on LinkedIn, but he got kicked out for saying something against Byju's, educational tech firm. So let us find out what happened and many more interesting stuff.